Hey, welcome back. It's a strange thing, isn't it? The human need to be understood. We spend our lives trying to translate the chaos inside our heads into words, into art, into something another person can hold for a moment and say, "Yes, I see you." But what if the only person who could ever truly understand you was you? What if you shared a secret language, a universe of two, so complete that the outside world became just a blurry, silent film? And what if that bond became a cage? I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is the Unexplained Archive. Today, we're stepping into one of the most haunting and psychologically complex stories I've ever encountered. The story of June and Jennifer Gibbons, the so-called silent twins. They were born in 1963 in Barbados, but grew up in a small town in Wales. Their parents were from the Caribbean, and in a predominantly white community, the Gibbons family stood out. But June and Jennifer stood out even more. They were identical twins, and from a very early age, they seemed to inhabit a world entirely of their own making. To teachers, to neighbors, to almost everyone, they were virtually mute. They would speak to each other, but in a rapid, distorted version of English that was unintelligible to anyone else. A private dialect forged in the isolation of childhood. To the outside world, they offered only silence. But inside their shared mind, a torrent of creativity was building. As teenagers, that creativity found an outlet. They began to write. Prolifically, they filled notebooks with stories, novels, plays, a vast, intricate fictional universe. Their writing was dark, violent, filled with troubled characters and dramatic plot lines. They wrote of addiction, crime, and profound despair. It was as if all the words they refused to speak aloud were pouring onto the page in a frantic, unstoppable river. They dreamed of being published authors, of having their inner world recognized and validated. And for a brief moment, it seemed possible. A local newspaper did a story on them. But that flicker of outside attention seemed to destabilize something between them. Their bond, already all-consuming, began to curdle. A fierce, almost violent rivalry emerged. They would allegedly get into physical fights. They made a pact. If one died, the other must speak and live a normal life. Their private world was no longer a sanctuary. It was a battleground with no exit. Their behavior escalated. What started as petty shoplifting spiraled into a series of arson attacks. It was a cry for help, a destructive attempt to burn a hole in the reality that confined them. In 1981, at the age of 18, they were arrested. The legal system, utterly bewildered by them, didn't know what to do. They were deemed unfit to stand trial and were sent to Broadmoor Hospital, a high-security psychiatric institution, a place for the criminally insane. They were to be held there indefinitely. Think about that for a second. Two young women, whose primary crime was a silence so profound it terrified people, locked away with some of the most dangerous individuals in the country. Their writing stopped. Their world shrunk to a sterile, terrifying room. They spent 11 years there, heavily medicated, their bond now the only thing they had left in a place designed to break people. Then, in 1993, something shifted. They were transferred to a less restrictive clinic. And almost immediately, according to the staff, the twins' demeanor changed. For the first time, they began to engage with the outside world. They seemed lighter. And then, just as suddenly, Jennifer became ill. She was rushed to the hospital, where she died shortly after. The cause of death was an acute inflammation of the heart muscle, a myocarditis. But there was no clear infection, no medical reason that fully explained it. The most chilling detail? Jennifer had reportedly told her sister, just before she fell ill, that she was going to die. And after her death, June said she felt free, as if her twin had sacrificed herself. True to their childhood pact, June began to speak. She started to build a life. She learned to drive. She lived quietly, on her own. The silence was broken. So what do we make of this? As an engineer, I look for systems, for logic. A cause leads to an effect. But human consciousness isn't a circuit board. The story of June and Jennifer Gibbons forces us to confront the unexplainable edges of identity, of symbiosis. Psychiatrists have theories about folie à deux, a shared psychosis. Sociologists point to the racism and isolation they faced, which cemented their reliance on each other. But that feels incomplete. It doesn't explain the eerie symmetry of their pact, or the sudden, medically unexplained death of Jennifer, just as their physical confinement ended. It's as if their bond had become a literal life force, a zero-sum game where one could not live unless the other died. Was it a profound psychological surrender? A somatic manifestation of a will to die? Or something else, something we simply don't have the vocabulary for? I think about this story often from my own perspective, as an immigrant, as someone who has code-switched between cultures and languages. I know what it is to have a private self, a world of references and understandings that feels untranslatable. But for June and Jennifer, that private self was a person, their other half. And when the outside world failed to meet them with any understanding, that bond fossilized into something absolute and ultimately tragic. Their silence wasn't an absence, it was a presence. It was a wall they built, brick by brick, and then found they couldn't tear down. Their story is a dark fairy tale about the double-edged sword of being understood completely. It asks us, is being seen by one person, utterly and totally, worth being invisible to everyone else? The silent twins leave us with more questions than answers, and perhaps that's the point. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to be witnessed, to make us sit with the uncomfortable truth that the human mind is the most profound archive of the unexplained we will ever encounter. June Gibbons lives a quiet life today. She got her wish for a normal existence, but at a cost so devastating it's hard to comprehend. Jennifer's voice exists only in those early, frantic writings, a ghost in the shared language they left behind. If you found this journey into the depths of a shared silence compelling, please help others discover these stories. Share this episode with someone, and consider subscribing to the Unexplained Archive wherever you get your podcasts. For more from me, Ibnul J. Farabi, and the entire team, visit our home at Light Not Studios. https://www.lightnotstudios.com. Thank you for listening. Until next time, keep wondering.